tell us about your honeymoon. Where'd you go on your honeymoon?
I know it's down there, but I can't remember the name of it. It was an inn sort of place that we went to down there.
Wasn't it this house that's right by the bridge? The house at the
Yes,
the Four
yes,
Corners?
Yes, you're right.
That just built the big garage.
It was on, from this angle, if we got there, it would be on the right-hand side.
Mm-hmm. And so did Tim know somebody that owned the house or something?
They did. His family knew somebody there.
They stayed there.
His father used to go there when he went fishing with some of his friends.
And then where'd you go after your honeymoon?
I went back to Reading, and he went off to the Army again.
Did he?
Yes.
Where did he go right after you got married?
Dothan, Alabama.
I didn't know that. And when did you guys get back in the same vicinity?
Well, I actually drove his car down to Dothan, Alabama a couple of months after we were married.
What was he doing in Alabama?
He was in the Army.
Oh, so he'd already...
Corps of Engineers.
Okay. He'd already done his basic training and all that?
Oh, yes. See, he was called back in because when he went back to college, he went in the ROTC.
Okay.
And they tracked him down that way and called him back into the Army. And he was in the Corps of Engineers, and that's why he was in Dothan, Alabama. I think they were building an airstrip somewhere or something or other. I don't remember exactly.
So how long did you stay in Alabama?
Until he was posted someplace else.
And Steve came along.
That was in Virginia.
So did you go from Alabama to Virginia?
I guess so.
Okay. Tell us about Virginia.
Well, we lived in a trailer, a small trailer, which commandant of the post didn't like, so it was hidden behind the sand dunes, which they thought was awful, but I enjoyed it because I could go up to the beach anytime I wanted to.
I didn't know there was beach there.
Well, there was.
Okay.
So that was my summer, so to speak, and even when Stephen came along later on, we were still there, and he'd go up there with me.
That's why you like sand so much, Steve. That's the reason. So, Steve came along about a little over a year after you got married, and you were 21? 21.
I think so.
Did you feel like you were young to be a mom?
Not particularly.
Okay. So, tell us about living with a baby in a trailer in Virginia in the service. What was that like?
Well, the trailer was small, so we had to take a piece of the dinette set out to put a crib-type thing in for Steve.
That's what I like to eat.
And, well, you know, from there it was all right. My mother came down after he was born. And she was a help, but she was also very determined that I was going to have a better kitchen. I don't know why. I don't remember what she did, but she was determined to have a better kitchen.
That was her first grandchild.
Yes. Yeah. So, my father had brought her down, but then he had to go back to work. So when she was ready to go home, he came back and took her home. So that was how that transpired.
And how long did you stay in Virginia?
I'm not sure. Because because Tim was in the Corps of Engineers and they were always building something somewhere. So I don't remember how long we were there.
But eventually you moved to Plainfield.
Eventually, yes.
Before Mark was born.
Yes.
So it had to be...
Oh, wait, was it before Mark was born?
Mark was born in Plainfield, I think.
Yes, he was.
So that had to be 2 years after Steve was born.
Yeah.
And where did you live in Plainfield first?
First, we lived in an apartment somewhere. Tim's mother found this person she knew who had an apartment above a garage.
Okay.
And that's where we lived at first. And then later on, when we had enough money, we found an apartment, a regular apartment. So that's how that transpired.
And Dad was working at the fuel oil company.
Yes.
And how many kids did you have when you moved to Kensington Avenue?
I don't remember. Stephen and Mark. Maybe Harriet was born by then, but I'm not sure. I can't remember.
And what was that house like? That was your first house.
What was it? It was next door to Aunt Mary. To Tim's Aunt Mary. And I guess she was the one who alerted the family to the fact that this house next door to her was going to be available. So that's how we got that house, through her knowing about it being available.
That was Mary Sheridan, right?
Yes. And it was like a Cape Cod house. Very comfortable. Had a nice backyard. And I think Tim put up a swing thing back there. Something or other, some sort of play area. And I know that the boys had a hole that they dug in, and they played with their cars and things in that area where the dirt hole was.
And Matthew was probably born when you were still in that house, right? He was little?
Yeah, he was little.
Matthew was born after my in-laws moved into a special apartment facility from their home.
Okay.
Because I have a picture. It's right here.
Oh.
Yeah. When he was very small.
So what was life like with 4 little kids in 10 years and you were just 30 years old?
Well, it was busy, to say the least. It was busy, but I was a lazy housekeeper. I'd rather be outside. So I was outside with the kids much of the time. I did my housekeeping, but it was not...
You'd rather play baseball.
Yes.
That's one thing we didn't talk about, the fact that your father taught you to love baseball.
Yeah, he did.
What was his team? Did he have a team that he liked?
He did, but I don't remember who they were.
Maybe the Phillies.
I have no idea. So.
And then you moved to Hillside. What year?
I don't remember what year
62?
2 or 3.
It was a bigger house.
1070 Hillside.
Yeah.
Beautiful
It
house.
was.
It still is.
Where is it?
Mm-hmm.
Has a lovely front porch where Harriet used to spend a lot of time playing out there when she was a little kid.
Tell us what that house looked like.
What it looked like?
Yeah, what was it like inside?
Oh dear, well, as you say, it was big. So everything inside was big. The rooms were big. The kitchen was kind of old. but it worked, you know. The bedrooms upstairs were comfortable. Our master bedroom was large. Had a third floor. Were you on that third floor? Yeah. There was a tree outside that window, wasn't there?
So when the kids were little, did you guys go on vacations?
Yeah, we did.
Where'd you go?
We went camping for a while. Gee, I'd have to look in my old travel book to remember where we went, but I think we went to Cape Cod, didn't we?
Yeah, for quite a while, a couple, 3-4 years.
Yeah. And some other places. Assateague. What did we do with Assateague?
I don't remember.
Assateague? That's where they had the wild horses.
Right.
I don't remember that. You must
So
have-
maybe we just visited there, I don't recall.
So once the kids were growing up, what kinds of things did you get involved with?
What did I get involved with? Well, I think I got involved with the choir at church,
Mm-hmm.
singing in the choir.
You sang with my mom.
Yes. Yep. And I attended an adult Bible study there.
A circle?
With your mom.
Were you in the same circle as my mom?
Yes, for a while.
Holy crow.
Yeah. So that kept me busy.
And Girl Scouts?
Well, Girl Scouts came along, yes. I spent quite a bit of time involved in that over the years. Did trips with the girls, went camping with the girls. Very enjoyable time. Poor Matthew got dragged along on some of those things because I couldn't leave him at home.
Let's see. And then you moved up to Beaverkill. Well, you bought this house in Beaverkill in the late 60s.
You know, I don't remember, but that sounds all
I
right.
think 68 or 69.
Something like that.
68. And you bought it from Mr. Wolfley.
Yes.
And I understand he was a botany professor at Rutgers or something.
Horticulturist, I think.
Horticulturist. He was a professor.
Yes.
And this was your summer house? Your vacation house?
Yeah, for a while. Yeah.
And then you moved, before you moved up here, your parents moved in with you, right?
Yes, they did. They had been living in Florida. And my mother... What happened to my mother?
Parkinson's.
That's right. Thank you for reminding me. She had Parkinson's, and my father in no way could even boil any water. And so they came to live with us in Plainfield for a while.
And by this time, Dad had started the software company?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Well, actually, he was doing both by that time.
Well, that was because they had a fire. The business had a fire. And when they rebuilt, he had them buy a computer. And of course, there were no programs at that time for that kind of business. So he went to school, I think in Philadelphia somewhere, to learn how to write his own computer programs for the business.
He was ahead of his time.
Yes, he was.
And then you guys moved up here in 72.
I don't remember when. I don't recall.
I think it was 72.
71 maybe.
Could be.
And Dad commuted back and forth to the fuel oil company. And what kinds of things did you do to the house when you got here?
To the house.
Yeah, besides buying a horse for Harriet.
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Building a swimming pool. Wallpapering ceilings. Putting in a new kitchen.
Well, Dad did the wallpapering.
Yes, he
He
did.
was very good at that. He inherited that skill from his mother.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let's see. So now you're living up here, and then Dad started doing the fuel oil business full time in
The computer business.
the computer business full time in like 76.
I don't remember the date.
About right.
I
But
think
there's somewhere in my drawers there's a card from that time. And that's when I got involved doing working with the people before he went to teach them about the computers.
so. Customer service.
I went to prepare them for what he was coming with, because most of them were terrified of having a computer to begin with and then having to learn how to use it.
So you paved the way.
I tried.
And then you did that for a while, and then you decided to go become a minister.
Yeah. And that's when I had to go to school. I had to do studies at home first, and then go to school in Washington I think it was every July and August, every July
For 4.
for 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
And were you a minister before that? Were you doing that while you were a minister? You
No,
had.
I was what they called a lay speaker.
Okay.
You could fill the pulpit, etc. And then towards the latter part of my training to be a minister, I filled pulpits when it was needed.
And where did you get your first church?
I think it was East Branch.
Mm-hmm.
East Branch and Harvard.
So that must have been.
I can't remember the years.
I feel like it was around 1990.
Could have been. I really can't remember.
Hold on one second.
What is she doing?
I'm looking at the dates. She graduated in 95.
95?
Yeah, you were the class of 95.
Oh.
Anyway, I just looked at the
Oh,
program on the wall.
I forgot about that in there.
And you did that for about 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
What did you like most about being a minister?
I guess working with the people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you did that, you didn't start doing that till you were about 60, I think.
I don't know if I was that old or not, to tell you the truth.
Well,
Again, it would be on that thing in there, the year.
in 1995, you would have been 65, right?
Yeah.
That was quite a wonderful thing, and you must have had a lot of confidence in order to do that later on in life.
I don't know. I had a lot of trust in the Lord
That's important.
and what He would do with me.
And you felt called.
Yes, I did. It was a very sort of gratifying time in my life.
Well, what else should we talk about?
I don't know. What else do you want to talk about?
Got any ideas, Steve? Well, I thank you very much for this time that you have spent with us telling us about your life. And if there's other things you think of, we can do some more.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.